All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon for those of you in the East Coast. And Nicholas, good evening. All right. So this last week, uh, I brought up this license change that Minayo was making. And as a part of that license change, we were discussing if it would still be okay to use the same repository given the kind of libraries that it links to. Um, Technically speaking, there are nothing but Apache v2 references in that code base. However, if we were to consider running Minayo within the CI, given that we are redistributing the code, given that our code is open source, technically it's still okay. But that being said, it does get into kind of a weird gray area in terms of being the one of the few projects that will be using running a AGPL code base inside. So we spoke with Saad and some people from CNCF. Shing was also involved in that conversation, and it seemed like the best solution or the best way to move forward is to uh, find a different way to do the sample driver part rather than trying to figure out how to retrofit um, the new change license, which is kind of a new scenario for pretty much all of us involved. um, for instance, none of us, I don't think we faced the situation where, as far as I know, in the Kubernetes community, where we've gone from Apache v2 to AGPL. Um, One of the first most public ones was Grafana, and I'm not sure what the resolution was there was in that case. So in this case, at least, CNCF took a look and gave us a clear response. um, and the clear response was the best way to move forward is to not well, the clear response was, we cannot use the AGPL project inside of how do I put this? We cannot use we cannot have any dependencies directly linking to AGPL projects, which we don't. And also in terms of running AGPL, it's a copy left license, so it expects whoever uses it to also distribute their code as open source along with the license. So given all this, again, the decision that we want to make today, or what I want to bring up today, is to find an alternate solution for our sample driver. And we've already made the request to archive the Minayo sample driver. If you're running it locally, that is totally fine. You won't be violating any licenses, the Minayo license, the Minayo sample driver. However, if you were to distribute it commercially, especially, you'd be violating the license. That's the one thing. So, yeah, I want to kickstart the conversation today to talk about what the alternatives are and kind of go from there. One thing I can say is, we don't want to waste too much time on this. There's a lot of things to talk about, so let's try to converge on a solution, as soon as possible. So, go ahead.
Is there a alternative? I thought you mentioned there might be some alternative.
Yeah, I do have good alternatives, yes. But I also wanted to open up for others to bring it up because others also should have a chance to bring up you know what ideas they might have, before even listening to what I have. Um, but if not, I can go ahead and talk about what I have. So I spoke to Ben also about this. And Ben, I spoke to him this morning. I don't know if he's here right now. He has a hackathon he's attending internally to NetApp right now. So we wanted something that's really easy to set up, doesn't have any license questions coming up, and also serves the purpose that we have, which is run something that is a sample that people can look at and use to develop their own Cozy driver, and two is use it for our internal CA purposes. Now, uh, the only support that we'll need for internal CI is support for the gRPC calls, not necessarily a support for the data IO calls. So, given these two, I'm it seems like the best option that we have right now is actually to write a really simple sample driver with no backend, with no backend at all. All it does is it's like a mock sample driver. It simulates creating a bucket and revoking access and granting access and deleting it, um, and that's about it. Um,
But agree, but then over time, there could be no test which actually spawns a pod and does an S3 CMD LS or something along those lines to check whether credential propagation, etc., works properly.
Credential propagation does not require LS. You don't need IO calls for like credential propagation. You just want to see if the credential is propagated the other side, right? Right?
Oh, okay, yeah. So through unit testing, where you expect a certain string and you then see whether that string sits in your
Right.
credentials file.
Right. Yeah. At least to move forward in the quickest way, I feel like it's really easy to get started like that.
So you're saying
And
that right now there's no existing open source solution that is Apache 2,
Well,
that type of object backend available?
yeah, so there's
there
DPL
is.
options or there's proprietary options. Um,
There's open
prop-
source as well.
oh, someone's talking. Go ahead, Nicholas.
There is open source as well from my employer. We
Mhm.
have an Apache 2 licensed S3 compatible API implementation with the storage and with credential checking and whatnot.
Mhm. Yeah, tell us more about it.
It's called Cloud Server. We do
Mhm.
use it also as part of our commercial projects
Mhm.
and as part of other open source projects.
Mhm.
But the thing by itself is a full implementation of the S3 API. It is
Mhm.
Apache 2 licensed.
Mhm.
You can run it as simple as a single Docker container. It
Mhm.
is built, it's written using Node.js. It is not implemented in Go or something like that. It's implemented using Node. But from a user point of view, that doesn't really change anything. It's an HTTP endpoint you talk to, which happens to implement the S3 interface. And it's Apache 2 licensed. And well, we don't really have any reasons nor intent to change that license at any
Mhm.
point in time. Apache 2 is all we do. It's on GitHub under github.com/scality/cloud server.
Mhm. Okay. Is there any other options? I just want to make sure we go through the
Swift,
list.
OpenStack Swift.
Mm-hmm.
Swift
Um,
with the S3 front end.
mhm. So, I think Jeff also had an option. Jeff, did you have something in mind?
No, no.
Nova, is this also Apache 2? I see
Yeah,
someone the Nova.
Apache 2 and S3 compatible, I believe.
Which one?
Nuba, I just linked it in the chat.
Okay, okay, okay. Interesting. That would be interesting. Um, all right. So we have three options. It looks like we have we have four. One we have Scality. One we have Nuba. One we have Apache Swift. Sorry, OpenStack Swift, and we have the other one, which is to write a very mock driver, simple one. Um, so let's talk about which would be a better option here. Uh, Swift. Okay, this is I don't know enough about it, but from what I've heard, it is complex setup, right, Shing? And I don't know. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Is the setup
I have not really set it up myself, so I didn't really use Swift myself.
okay?
So
Anyone?
I have actually.
Mhm.
If you want a fully running Swift installation, then it's quite hard, but you don't necessarily need that. There
Mhm.
is the OpenStack all-in-one project, which you can use to deploy OpenStack or only Swift or only various other services. fairly easily. And there used to be, but I'm not sure that's still maintained, someone who built a Docker container, which when you spawn it, brings up a Swift, well, a single node Swift cluster. So you want.
Oh, so
But
it's okay.
and then, okay, there my knowledge is somewhat dated. The S3 implementation Swift used to have was rather limited. I'm not even sure you can do things like provisioning new key pairs.
I see. Okay, good to know. Um, yeah. So you're saying if we were to talk to the Swift API and try to provision new key pairs, that wouldn't work. I mean, possibly.
But the Swift API itself is a different API. It's not even S3. Swift,
Oh, I
its
see.
native API is a different object storage, and then we would need to add it to the list of object storage protocols Cozy supports. But they do have a sort of a front end which translates S3 API calls into the Swift storage's internal API calls.
Yeah, that sounds complex for a for a sample driver, to be honest.
I agree. Now, if I may,
Go
I
ahead.
what I think the two paths you outlined before both have their merits. Where a stub driver, which does everything in memory, etc., is great for actual testing. Flakiness is zero. We can also use it to have it return other type, like have it actually return errors, and then figure out whether the sidecar and others properly handle those. But it's not necessarily super useful for someone who wants to look at an implementation of a provisioner to write another provisioner for another storage system. So I think we may want to have like kind of both in the end, where one is purely used for testing purposes, as in internally, and the other one can serve as a reference. It's not even a reference implementation. You see
No, I like that.
where I'm going at? If, for example, the Nuba people build a CozyProvisioner for Nuba, and us Scality, we build a CozyProvisioner for Scality storage, which is backed by Cloud Server, we both open source that one. Those two projects, they are kind of similar in value. So you want, and then isn't it better to have a couple of those rather than have one that's blessed?
Totally agree. Actually, I'm completely on board with this. Actually, so for testing alone, we can have a like in memory thing, like you were just saying, and we should create probably a very public and easily accessible repository, probably in Kubernetes 6 itself. That just is a cozy that just has links to all the cozy drivers. That's the way to discover what the cozy drivers are. We can have it in our website. That might be even better, like at the front page, right here. That would be great. And as for what we need internally, um, we can build that super simple cozy driver that's testing friendly one. And one advantage I see about the in-memory testing friendly one is that it can be retrofitted for any API. Like you can just because everything is kind of smoke and mirrors inside there. So I could pretend to work with GCS or Azure or S3, doesn't matter.
So basically, it does not really move data. Just make sure gRPC interface is correct.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think the benefit of that is I think the CI will be fast.
Yeah.
It's really involves upload, download. It's really slow.
Yeah. And you can test the entire integration just with that. Jeff, are you saying something?
I was thinking something and I clicked unmute, but
Okay.
I like Nicholas's suggestion. I think we have more flexibility decoupling the CI needs from a sample, a good example of a driver need. And so I like that idea. I'm just sort of thinking more about it, but it may, and then what Xing said about having it in memory fast CI is good. I basically in a comment in an email thread or a PR, I just said, I think we need to have CI for this, that we can't forgo that. And
Right.
number two, I think we want a driver that is easy for someone to kick the tires. Someone sees Cozy, hey, let me just run this, fire this up on my laptop, Minikube or whatever, see how it works. And so if there's a solution that will meet those needs, I'm happy about it then.
Yeah, it seems like people are on board. Any other thoughts, anyone? If if we can go forward with this, that would be great. Let's see who else we've got here. Blaine, did you have any thoughts?
Not any specific thoughts, no. I'm just kind of
Okay.
listening to see like what status is like. We have an initial implementation of creating buckets in Rook using Cozy. But that work is still very much ongoing.
Okay, got it. Do let us know if you have any thoughts or ideas coming from the Rook world. I'm sure it'll be valuable.
Yeah, I definitely will do. We're excited to get something integrated and start hopefully getting like user feedback.
Sounds good. All right. So, okay. So any name suggestions for this in-memory sample driver? Like in case of CSI, we have local PV provisioner. Similar to that, what do we call this? Anyone?
Would it be S3 compatible or not?
So I'm thinking, since it's in memory, it's just a dummy system. It can do all three. Yeah, provisioning only, right? And you're not actually going to talk the S3.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. So
Cozy driver stub, CozyProvisioner stub, CozyProvisioner.
stub, okay.
Why stub?
A mock driver is like we have
Mock,
CSI
mock
has
is
a
better.
mock driver.
Mock is a better name. Yeah. I think.
Okay. Everyone is. I'm okay with either mock or stub. Okay, let's go with mock. Cozy mock driver. Is that good? Cozy dash mock dash driver.
Sounds good.
Just for my education, do we call these things drivers or do we call them provisioners?
So we've been using them interchangeably.
So the one that we created for Minio, we call that a driver, right?
Right.
I think it's what's the name? That's a Minio something.
That's
Cozy Minio driver. What is the
Cozy driver menu?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cozy driver. Do we do cozy driver mock? Does that?
That sounds.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Mock driver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Driver.
Cozy mock driver. This is good. Or you can say cozy driver stub. That would also work. Cozy driver stub. This would work too. Okay, so talking about driver versus provisioner, what's the difference between those two words?
There's not necessarily a difference, but I think it makes sense to standardize on.
Yeah, I agree. So what do we standardize on? That's where I'm coming from. Like, what should we call it?
I like provisioner because in the end, that is what this software does. A driver is more generic in a sense and can apply to so many other pieces of software.
Yeah, it's kind of a driver and a provisioner. So it doesn't just help you communicate with the backend system, which is what a driver does. It also helps you provision new resources in the backend. So I would think it's both. So like you said, I think we can call it either. If you want to stand out, which I like, they could call it provisioner. All right. No thoughts?
Provisioner?
Provisioner. So Cozy mock provisioner.
What about CozyProvisioner fake? So it's not
Uh,
really a mock. Mock is for test. Mock is really, it means something in the test world, right? For instance, if I want to mock Amazon, I write a fake S3 server. Sample.
Yeah. What do you think about this? CozyProvisioner sample. And we can have other drivers also named similarly. CozyProvisioner.
Linaio, CozyProvisioner. Okay, makes sense.
Yeah. I like this. CozyProvisioner sample.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with that.
If it's kind of related to what I said before, you can't really use this thing as a sample because a big chunk of what would be an actual provisioner, being talking to some backend storage system, will not be part of it.
I mean, like, you know, you could say the same about local PV provisioner also, like the local PV driver in CSI. It doesn't really go to the backend and actually, you know, make the calls.
No,
to
actually, that actually you can actually use that to store some data. Of course, very little, but you can actually create a volume, a real volume.
It
I
even
see.
does things like
Yeah.
snapshots, etc.
Yeah,
I see.
eventually, because it's like a file, you can actually like take a zip that's a snapshot. So you can actually do something like that.
I
Yeah,
see.
but this one, if it really doesn't do anything, then yeah, that's really just a sample, right? So the CSI host path driver, that's actually a driver. Not it's not a production, but it actually does store data.
So do you think we can call this sample then? CozyProvisioner
Sample should be fine. Like the mock driver doesn't really do anything. It just goes through the interfaces, gRPC interfaces.
Okay.
So if you call it a mock or sample, should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Nicholas, should we go with sample?
So it could be, it can be used as a mock, but also it can be used as a sample.
Yeah.
So I think sample is a better name. No.
Okay.
So it's more than a mock.
Yeah.
Mock is really for test, you know, for CI, right? It's not
Right.
really exposed as a repo, right?
Right. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's true.
Because somebody, for instance, writing a driver or provisioner could fork this one and start from there.
Yeah, exactly. They could just put their things in there. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like CozyProvisioner sample. We can get started with this if everyone's okay with it.
So if we all follow the same naming convention, it could be very clear because it starts with CozyProvisioner dash, and then there could be a collection.
Right.
Like and sample is pretty nice as a name.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think there will be a company or an open source project named Sample.
Yeah. So can you so as you start writing your drivers, even if it's not complete, even if it's not in like working order, please send me a link to them or directly make a pull request to github.com container object storage interface /website. Oh. Yeah, container object storage.github.io. So yeah, please make a pull request directly and your sample driver will get added here. So
are you talking about the sample driver? Are you talking what?
So
the sample driver is like we're talking about. We're going to have that in tree. I mean, not in tree. We're going to have like a repo for that, right?
Yeah. So we don't have. Yeah. But on the website also we want to show it. Right now the website is not linking to any repo yet. Ideally, we want to move on.
Are you talking about like what we have for CSI driver? And there is like a driver doc. We list all the drivers.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not just a sample driver. Actually, those are like production driver.
No, that won't go into this repository. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we should have a separate where we other.
So here we are talking about we actually have a code repo. It's going to be a code for this to support this.
This is code repo.
And then you're talking about that the document. The document will be, if anyone has written a driver or a provisioner,
Right.
they can just have it listed there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry if I was not clear.
I'm just saying that that's not, those are like production driver, not really like sample driver. So like we are talking about a CSI hostpath driver. We always said that's a sample driver. That's not the
True.
production level driver. But then those drivers from vendors, those are like production ready drivers.
Right. Vendor drivers is what I was saying. So sample driver, I feel like we can close that conversation where we have a path forward for CI and for someone to just fork off of and get started. This will be the CozyProvisioner sample repository, and as
Can
people.
we bring this up on Thursday's meeting, and then we can, I think Sad said he could join on Thursday,
Okay.
so that we can decide on the name of the repo.
Okay.
We want
I
to
mean,
have this created, right? Or do we still need some more time?
sorry.
Do we need some more time to have the repo created, or do we?
I mean, I don't see. So the way I see it is, in the like we can go ahead and create the repo because the community is decided on that. If Saad wants to, like what the naming is, like what does he want to give an input on?
We want to agree on the naming, right? And then we can formally, because this one, that this normally goes through the, normally what happens is you first send an email to the SIG storage mailing list, and then you submit a pull request to the org, that repo. It's just like last time when we have that menu driver. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't, should we maybe just send the email and ask
That's
Saad?
fine. That's fine too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't you send an email to just to SIG storage mailing list?
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Then you can mention also. I think I don't think everybody is aware about this other mini repo. Just mention that
Okay.
we decide to
Archive
archive
it.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, he said he's already put in a request for, and I think you.
There was already a request. Yeah, there was already a request for that. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah. All right. So I'm glad we resolved this quickly. So let's move on to the next question. So this next question was something that Ben brought up this morning. So Ben is working on a or a hackathon internally to NetApp, and they're building a Cozy driver as a part of the hackathon. And one of the things he brought up was container object storage interface spec. This is right here. So we use in our spec, in our protobuf file right here, these extension numbers are the same as what it is for CSI. And the thing is, whenever we use a single binary with multiple services, and these services tend to, in terms of the protobuf namespaces, that is, in the process where it holds the protobufs, the number is 1059 to 1059. Okay, let me show you something. Let's just here. Oh yeah, there it is. So here, there's a namespace conflict wherein the CSI variables and the Cozy variables were colliding. So where is that? Over here. Where did I just put it? Okay, yeah, here. So this number 1060 is the same for Cozy as well. So for CSI as well, I'm going to show you container storage interface. So this is what we based off of when we created the cozy.proto file. So these numbers are the exact same. And that leads to a conflict which prevents both Cozy and CSI to be deployed or to run on this as a part of the same process. So Ben has actually started a new pull request to upstream protobuf, where CSI already has CSI has already reserved 10 different numbers. So from 1059 to 1069 or 1070, I believe, either 10 or 11 numbers. And each number corresponds to one service that you register in the global namespace of all protobufs. And right now, Cozy is colliding with CSI, so they're not able to run CSI and Cozy on the same machine, on the same process. So this is something that we want to fix. And one question that both Ben and I had was, CSI ended up reserving 10 different numbers. So let me pull that up. Let me show you where that pull request is. Yeah, here it is. So I'm going to send a link to this. Where's the chat? All right. So if you take a look at this, right somewhere at 1059 or so. There it is. CSI reserves 1059 to 1069. These are the extension numbers for each of the services that CSI exposes. CSI exposes only 3 services: the identity service, the node service, and the controller service. However, it has actually gone ahead and reserved 10 different numbers, extensions. And our question is, should we do 10 just like CSI, or should we do 2 like we have right now? Any thoughts from anyone on this? I'm very new to this, so I'm speaking from whatever I learned this morning. No thoughts?
Yes, Sid, I'm new to it too, so I'm just learning here.
Mm-hmm. So like we could add a like another entry here, which gives us say 1109 to 1119.
What are CSI ones?
CSI is 1059 to 1069.
Are there any projects that don't have consecutive numbers, as in they requested 1 or 2 at some point in time and then added some others later?
We should be able to tell. There should be a comma somewhere. Not that I can tell, at least not here. Yeah. Tell me.
And do you think we will need more than 2?
Maybe does someone know why CSI registered 10? 11 actually. Shing, would you know?
No, I
Okay.
don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ben also didn't know. That's okay. So, I mean, we can just follow CSI and register 11. I don't see the harm in its numbers. We're not going to run out. Right? Thoughts?
I would, in the pull request to this thing, basically ask the question to the maintainers of this list.
Mm-hmm. Why do we need so many?
No, what's the currently we allocate 2.
Mm-hmm.
We may need more. So what is what is your guideline as to should we already pre-allocate more, or do we come back later? Ask the people that maintain the protocol buffers repository.
Yeah, that's a good point. So by the way, CSI started with 3. I just remembered, but snapshotting is a separate one, so that's 4. And then anything else, volume populator, I think that's 5. Anytime they add a new API, a new service that needs to be
Volume populator doesn't have a CSI interface.
Okay. Anything that has a CSI interface would occupy one of those spaces.
But
So
then they can be, if they keep adding, then it's going to be jumping, right? But I think looks like it's already reserved from beginning,
yeah, they reserve 10 from the beginning. Yes.
right?
So in our case, I can see like performance metrics being something like that, where you want to have a separate service that measures how many buckets are coming in, what's the average bandwidth, throughput, and all that, or latency. So like, do you like someone was asking, do you see our services increasing? Yeah, I can see a number of services increasing as we start adding more features. It might.
Hey, what about like object level resources? Are we going to do something like that?
Yeah, object level, there'll be things like locking, lifecycle management, uh, but I'm not sure what else.
Like
Because,
just like
Mhm.
adding object like put or those type of thing, do we actually planning to, because right now we're just provision the bucket, right? But are we going to actually do anything with the object itself? Like a put an object, put
Uh-huh.
an object, are we planning to add those interfaces as well in future?
So, um, ideally, we don't want to be in the data path. That is in the data path.
Mm.
Because it's not easy to abstract the data path APIs, and those APIs are not under they're not even how do I put this? I don't know if all of them are standardized. S3 is a standard, but I don't know with the others.
And those API, if we were to do such thing, which I don't think we should, will not be over protobufs, because objects can be so almost arbitrary in size, and protobufs, you don't want to have a data payload of say 64 megabytes in a protobuf message.
Yeah, Shing, were you talking about the data operations itself having?
Sure, yeah. I was just wondering, like in the future, could that be something that can be added in? I'm not sure. I was just, trying. We're right now trying to think what are the other APIs that we might add.
Yeah, something like lifecycle management, something like KES is a key encryption service. I could see that requiring a new service extension. Um, Anything else custom? I mean, when you're reserving a namespace, the idea is, we're going to be fine for the next few years or next 10 years almost. So it's possible that, they're reserving for something they don't anticipate yet. I can think of two things. Like I said, I can think of one is the encryption service key management, like key management service, and uh, one more is for metrics and performance, um, like bucket level metrics or object level metrics. I don't see any coming in for the data path itself, but like I said, two more is already possible. So should we just go and reserve say 5 or 10? Thoughts? Any thoughts?
I would
Anyone
say
has?
yes. Why not?
Why not? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Okay, so let's do this. Let's actually go and figure out why people need so many spaces. And if we're going to see, this is a standard rather than a project. What we're building is a standard rather than a project. And in our case, it might make more sense to have a larger namespace reserved as compared to like a project like Graphene or Bazel. Bazel is also a standard, but yeah.
Don't underestimate object storage. It's a future. I would say 20, because probably it will be bigger than 5 systems.
20.
No, but 10 should be enough. But I'm joking. But
Yeah,
object storage is probably would probably at some point be the standard for cloud native storage. So
yeah,
it's at least as important as CSI.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean,
Probably there will be
yeah,
extensions. There will be, whatever.
yeah. This is more than about importance. It's not about importance. This is about like how much do you expect it to be extensible? Like, and also like.
I would say 10 because since object storage will be very big in cloud native environments, there will be plenty of extensions at some point.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. And extensions that we don't even anticipate at this point.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, so Ben is going to make the pull request here, and he's going to look at, I'll let him know the number is 10. So we'll reserve 10 spaces. Once we have that reserved, we can go ahead and update the protobuf inside of our proto repo, the spec repo. In the meantime, if anyone else wants to do the same thing, if anyone else wants to use protobuf, use CSI and Cozy inside the same binary, there is a way to do it. You change the registration conflict level to warn instead of panic. The default is panic. So I'm going to send a link to that. And if you set that, it's going to compile and go forward and work. However, it does. Nicholas said plus 1,000. However, I cannot guarantee you if everything will work correctly. That's something you'll have to figure out by yourself.
I was wondering if we change those numbers, does it have any implication on versioning of the spec library? It's not been released yet, so likely not. But this is, of course, I think at least a backwards incompatible change.
I think we're fine. We're not even alpha yet. Even alpha stage, we don't have to worry about backward compatibility. It's only after you go to beta, then you have to worry about that.
Yeah. No, this is ABI, so it means that if someone compiles a CozyProvisioner, whichever you would like today, against the current spec lib, and then you run it against the sidecar after the changes are made, and then a newer version of a sidecar, then things are not going to work.
Well, luckily, this time we got lucky because none of these values are used anywhere, though that need to be used. Like, this is supposed to be a secret, and this is alpha. So there are only the variables all start with either the name alpha or cozy underscore. And a quick word search will tell you it's not used anywhere except in the definition of the variable itself.
Ah, okay. So those are not for the identifiers of the actual RPC calls.
No.
Okay,
However,
okay.
Use, yeah. I believe this is like this for the service that you choose to. Yeah, we need to understand this better. I just know that 10 namespaces are reserved for CSI. We should also take 10. Like Vianney was saying, why not? All right. So as of right now, this is what was in my mind. The final thing, again, one more API related question is I brought this up with Krish today. Krish, and yeah, the question was about where is this our API? Inside the S3 protocol, we have a field called bucket name. Originally, the idea behind bucket name was, before we had the idea of a bucket class, the bucket name was the field that was going to be filled in after the bucket was created here. So S3 protocol has fields endpoint, bucket name, region, signature version. The original intention of having bucket name here was, this is the field that was going to be filled in inside the bucket object after the bucket is provisioned. And this is the field that's going to be sent down to the workload when the workload needs to use the bucket. So it's going to use the S3 protocol structure, which has these 4 fields to utilize the bucket. However, this has become kind of a weird field now because this S3 protocol definition itself goes into a bucket class. And a bucket class cannot have the bucket name itself. I don't know if that makes sense to you, if I'm saying that correctly. In types, we have a bucket class There you go. And it has the protocol structure, and protocol structure has one of the three protocols. In this, I don't see a bucket class having a bucket name inside of it. Like having that field even, be a part of a protocol like S3 protocol is confusing, because maybe through documentation we can address it, where we say, even though protocol field has bucket name in it, you don't fill it in.
That's weird. Should be
Yeah,
too strong.
but then we have to probably check that they don't fill it in.
Right, we need to have version control or something.
Actually, while I was reviewing the CAP changes earlier today, I had the same question about endpoint. And maybe that's me missing something, but I didn't really see why the endpoint value for the S3 protocol should be set as part of a bucket class.
Well, at least endpoint is a little clearer. Endpoint could be something like, talking to Gov Cloud, AWS Gov Cloud versus AWS China Cloud or AWS General Cloud, or talking to a particular region within AWS. So that's the idea behind endpoint.
So you expect a single provisioner to be able to provision for multiple endpoints?
Yeah, I mean, the general AWS provisioner would have to be able to provision for multiple regions.
For multiple regions? But their region is a separate, there's endpoint and there is region within that struct.
I mean, there are definitely other parameters. The idea was you can have, I see what you're saying. You can have a driver for each different kind of provisioner, and we already have region in there. So, the region argument doesn't make sense. But you're saying if we have Gov Cloud and General Cloud support needed, you would just say, have two different provisioners running, one for Gov Cloud, one for General Cloud, right? That's what you're saying. How would you do?
Well, twice the same provisioner, but using a different configuration. So yes, two provisioners.
Okay. Yeah, that would work. So we're saying, I can follow what you're saying. So we're saying inside of the protocol, it doesn't make sense to have both endpoint and bucket name, right?
Indeed. Region, I kind of get, and signature version, sure. But endpoint, bucket name, I actually didn't trigger while I was reading this, but it's kind of the same. And I kind of struggle with why those are there in the context of a bucket class, of course. In the context of a bucket, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, fair enough. So good.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, I agree with that comment. And Sid, I've just personally had a little, I think in the implementation group has wanted the same structure to be used both for the bucket
Right.
and for the bucket class definition, that the code uses the same type.
Well, there's another reason. There's a very important reason, which is.
Okay, let me do that.
Go ahead.
No, I think the confusion that has been brought up about the protocol definition in the bucket class, I agree with that. It's confusing even to me. So I'd like to hear what the other good reason is.
Yeah, the other good reason for having something like this is inside the workload, that is the file that we're going to, the bucket.yaml that we plan to put inside the pod, that one, we have to standardize the version of that structure as well. And the original method we chose to standardize on that is to just have the same versioning as the rest of the bucket APIs. So V1 Alpha 1, V1 Alpha 2, whatever. And the value that will be put into the bucket.yaml will be the protocol structure. So the bucket name would go in via the protocol structure. So if it is S3, the bucket.yaml would contain the contents of this structure. And that's why endpoint was meaningful back then. That is, this is the endpoint the workload would have to talk to. This is the bucket name the workload would have to use in order to, access the bucket. That's how these two fields came in. Now it seems to me like it might make sense to create a new structure for what goes into bucket.yaml. I mean, for alpha, we can keep it as it is, but for the next step, I think it makes more sense to create a new structure that the workload will read, and that'll have to be versioned along with the rest of the bucket-related, object storage-related structures. So that would look a lot like V1 alpha 1 or V1 alpha 2 or so on. Someone was saying something, that's why I paused. So yeah, that'll look something very. Go ahead.
Excuse me. So that seems okay to me. We can try in the alpha version and see what feedback we get on that.
Yeah.
And make a change based on that input.
Yeah. So Nicholas, does that clarify your question? Why endpoint and bucket name are there?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're almost out of time. I want to continue this conversation again on Thursday, and we'll get the ball rolling on creating a new repository for the sample. So we need to get started working on the sample driver, and as you might already know, we are moving as fast as we can. We need help from all of you. You've already helped us with reviewing the KEP, which we really appreciate. One more help we really need is with developing this sample driver. I need one of you to sign up to take ownership of it. Basically, it should be a simple project, and I'll be there to help if needed. But I'd like one of you to take it up and see it to completion. So who here would be interested in something like this? It has to be us. It has to be one of us, because we're the ones coming and deciding this. We're the ones that's coming and building this. We have the most context about this. So
What's the time frame you have in mind?
we don't really have deadlines, but we want to move forward. So someone who has interest in moving this forward is who would be ideal. Like you, Nicholas, or Vianney.
So, I could work on that, have something in place, but not sure I can be the long-term maintainer of it. As
Long
in, if
maybe
the spec changes, etc., I can't commit to always updating that thing to work with the latest spec, etc.
Okay, so let me put it this way. As the first step, we need someone who will bring it to a working condition. After that, maintainer is a second step. So just bringing it.
Up and getting it to work, I'll commit to it.
Okay. All right, let's do that. Okay, so I'll get the ball rolling on getting the repository in place and getting you permissions to push code there, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Sweet. Okay, so we're almost out of time. Anyone have any questions? All right, let's meet again on Thursday, and hopefully by that time we have the sample repo and probably some code also in there. Thank you, everyone.